If Lamb knew how to hold on to the ball, not only would he have scored 40 points in this game, but also my pick'em would have hit. We got a lot to talk about. Obviously, we can start it off with the Dallas Cowboys, or we'll do the Philadelphia Eagles. So I spent all offseason, right, going like, oh, I actually like the idea of drafting Devonta Smith. I thought Smith was a great pick in round 5, grabbing him as a wide receiver 3, thinking, oh, okay, well, at the end of the day, there's no way the Eagles are able to run the ball as much this year as they did last year. I know it's 1 week. I don't want to sit here and overreact, but Philadelphia had 37 rush attempts to 19 completions. The Philadelphia Eagles had 159 rushing yards in comparison to 152 passing yards. So it doesn't matter who you started in Philly. If they were not named Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, you were probably disappointed. Now, funny enough, Dallas Goedert, I guess in a full PPR format, kept you alive, which is all you can ask for a tight end. But with A.J. Brown, with Devonta Smith, they come through and they combine for 24 receiving yards. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Unless my math is off. 16 plus 8 is 24 receiving yards. 3 receptions plus 1 is 4 points. So the combination of Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown, a double stack that I was excited about this offseason, just dropped 6.4 fantasy points in this game where the Philadelphia Eagles had no problems scoring points. Now, I'm going to do a bunch here. One, we'll talk about what happened in my own fantasy football matchup. I know it's just Thursday, but right now, the team of destiny is looking pretty nice against Mr. Vetri, where you had George Pickens go for only 6 fantasy points. And we have not put a kicker in our lineup yet. Once we get that in, we'll be projected to win. And we had Saquon Barkley at 18.4. Not the worst, not the best. But I think we may need to go over and we may need to actually update our rankings or tinker just a bit with our wide receiver rankings and figure out if the passing volume is really going to be this low in Philly. Can I justify having the wide receivers where I have them ranked? And obviously, I will say real quick, for the love of God, Jahan Dotson's not worth talking about. You're not going to hear me talk about Jahan Dotson. Let's go over to the site real quick and let's see where I have these Philly wide receivers ranked, and let's see if we have to update this. So I had A.J. Brown inside the same tier with Drake London. You can't say that they're in the same tier at this point. Realistically, if I'm looking at Brown, this was always the risk, right? The risk is just you have some of these games where the passing volume simply is not there. And this team, even with the change with the offensive coordinator, they're just going to run the ball over and over and over again. If I'm looking at A.J. Brown in our rankings at this point, I think I would rather have Ladd McConkey. I'm not going to panic and move A.J. Brown down behind like Mike Evans, Jackson Smith, and Jigba just yet. If we get another week like this, then sure. But, I mean, this is just the risk. I think it's the game environment. I don't think A.J. Brown's bad at football all of a sudden. I think he's still one of the best wide receivers in the league. I think if you were to just pretend like nothing that happened today, that the change with the offensive coordinator where we saw that they're going to be just as run heavy as they were last year, if you were to pretend like, you know what, that doesn't matter at all. A.J. Brown has to stay at wide receiver 10, exactly where you had him ranked. What's the point of this? I'm going to just drop him one spot behind Ladd McConkey because realistically, if I was an A.J. Brown owner and you offered me Ladd McConkey at this point, I'd be fine swapping over to Ladd. Going over and looking at Devonta Smith, I'd rather have Sutton. I'd rather have DJ Moore. I don't think we can say we'd rather have Pickens, but honestly, I'm going to move Devonta Smith down a tier because, again, going back and looking at the passing volume in this offense, we can still very clearly see that Eagles, their plan A is to run the ball over and over and over again, 37 rush attempts in comparison to 19 completions. It's not going to be that way every game, but it's not like this game wasn't competitive. So I'm going to move the wide receivers down slightly. They're both going to fall a tier for me. Realistically, next week in my weekly rankings, I can guarantee you I'm going to have A.J. Brown ranked as a must-start wide receiver. Devonta Smith will be more so like in play with the flex options, but we're going to leave them as is. Now, let's go over and let's look at where we have Barkley. I had Barkley at running back 1 before this. We're going to leave Saquon Barkley at running back 1 after this. I don't care that Will Shipley had a little bit of usage. It is nice to know that Shipley is like the true one-for-one handcuff. And with that in mind, I would probably rather have like Will Shipley over Chris Rodriguez. I think Will Shipley goes inside the same tier as like Ollie Gordon, Najee Harris, where these are just handcuff backs, right? Kind of the same as Tyler Algier. Where Barkley were to go down, I'm pretty confident I'm going to rank Will Shipley as a must-start running back in our rankings that week. Going over looking at Jalen Hurts, do I need to update anything here? We had Jalen Hurts at QB4 beforehand. Just off the top of my head, right? You get 12 points off rushing touchdowns, 6.3 points off of just rushing yards. So you're at 18.3 points for Jalen Hurts before anything as a passer. Did some simple math. He has about 6.04, 6.08 points as a passer. So you're looking at like a 24-point game for Hurts. Completely fine. I don't necessarily think that anything has changed with Jalen Hurts. We saw him have the tush push. So we're going to leave Jalen Hurts at QB4. I think that stays as is. Now, where do we have Dallas Goedert? Y'all know I like Dallas Goedert, and I may or may not have made a critical error in my league with Dallas Goedert that I'm not going to be talking about I'm not going to talk about right now because I have to try to make some plays in the Flock League before people realize my mistake. But I have Goddard here, tied in 13. Do I change this? Do I move him up ahead of Kraft? Ingram? No. Good market share numbers, but the issue with Goddard, same issue we've had throughout his entire NFL career. This dude's just simply not going to be able to find the end zone ever. He's never done it. Now let's move this over and let's look at what we have with the Dallas Cowboys. So Dak Prescott absolutely sold my underdog pick'em, and I am very, very sorry if you tailed us with the underdog pick'ems. I was hoping that we were going to be able to come out, and I was hoping that we were going to be able to celebrate. Let me see where we had that, but we had George Pickens for fewer than 5 receptions. We had Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown. Both of those obviously worked out quite well. Both of those we got with really no room to be nervous about it. Like they're both there easily. But what we did not get is we did not get Dak Prescott at 230 passing yards. You had some big plays where we could have potentially seen it if it wasn't for CeeDee Lamb turning into Quentin Johnston. That's not going to help the case for Dak Prescott with the passing volume there when he can just consistently hit CeeDee Lamb. And I don't know. He rubbed oil all over his gloves this morning. Something happened with him. Now, what's hilarious is you just look at the box score, and it looks like a great game for CeeDee Lamb. The dude had 13 targets. He had 7 receptions. He had 110 receiving yards. Now, I know we're all going to sit here, especially if you have CeeDee Lamb, and you're going to scream like, oh my gosh, this guy's a bum. I can't believe he dropped the ball over and over and over again. He could have had so much of a bigger game. And you always get an emotional reaction when you see the drops just because they're on the TV. They're right there clear in front of you. For me, and I know this is going to sound weird, but I would rather see the wide receiver get open, draw the target, and drop the ball than never draw the target in the first place when it comes to predicting fantasy football points going into the future. Because at the end of the day, drops are a super low occurrence. And if you look at the sample size that you really have with these drops, it is going to be difficult to say a player had a drop problem at this point, and that's going to continue into the future. Like, I have CeeDee Lamb at my wide receiver 2, right in the same tier with Chase and Jefferson. I'm not moving this at all from today's game. If anything, from today's game, I'm looking at this and going, crap, CeeDee Lamb could have had 35 points. I know that's maybe a little bit aggressive. He could have had 30 fantasy points, it felt like. So I'm going to leave him here. He had a fine day with 18. And y'all know I'm not the biggest George Pickens guy. Y'all know there's a reason we went through and we chose with our underdog pick'em that we are going to be going with Pickens for fewer than 5 receptions. George Pickens, through his entire NFL career, has been a low volume target earner. He gives you the big plays. He's more valuable from a real life perspective than he is from a fantasy perspective. He wins at the catch point, but you're not going to see George Pickens with 10 plus targets. I mean, some games you will, but it's not going to be a consistency thing. Pickens with the 4 targets, the 3 receptions, the 30 receiving yards. I know, yes, he had the big play where he drew the pass interference, and that was really exciting, and that's going to help the Dallas Cowboys a considerable amount. But Pickens, you can't rank as anything more than like that guy that you're going to be looking at the flex depending on the matchup every single week. I'm not going to be like moving Pickens dramatically in my rankings from this game. I don't think anything's changed. I wasn't that excited to play him this week because it was a tough matchup. Going over, looking at Jake Ferguson, nothing's really changed. He gets 6 targets. The only thing that I feel like we really need to update when it comes to the Dallas running backs, and I guess we'll stay with Dak Prescott for a second before we go to the running backs. Dak Prescott was super low in our weekly rankings this week because, again, the matchup was horrible, right? So in my rest of season rankings, I don't feel like we need to be moving Dak up or down. Like I have Dak QB 12 rest of season. However, in our weekly rankings, we had him as a clear bench in favor of streaming somebody like Lawrence. And it's because it was a really tough matchup against the Eagles. Now, the only real update that I think like you have to make with your rankings from this game, and it's like, hey, this is actually a big change, is Javonte Williams. So Javonte's fantasy points at the end of the day, they weren't crazy. You get the 2 rushing touchdowns. You get the 54 rushing yards. You get the 2 receptions and 10 receiving yards. So some simple math, you get about 20 points from Javonte. Now, in best ball drafts, cool, that helped you a bunch because he randomly slides into your starting lineup. The reality of the situation is I bet the majority of us here that had Javonte Williams in your regular redraft league, you probably benched him because it was a horrible matchup going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. But going into the future, the matchups will be much better for Javonte. And you look at how this played out for the Dallas Cowboys running back room. Jaden Blue was a healthy scratch for this game. Miles Sanders fumbles. Javonte Williams shows some life. 54 rushing yards off 15 carries isn't special by any stretch of the imagination, but he was out there breaking tackles. He looked okay. So Javonte, like going into next week, we now know what the running back usage is in this room. We know Javonte Williams is the starting running back. So if I go over and look at my rankings, where I have Javonte ranked right alongside just like premium handcuffs, like Charbonnet, Jordan Mason. Like I have Travis Etienne in the Flock League right now. I would trade him in a heartbeat for Javonte Williams. So obviously I moved Brian Robinson up dramatically given the McCaffrey injury report. This is going to be something that we definitely need to keep on monitoring on the site, and I'll definitely keep you all posted with this. But I think you need to move Javonte at least in the range of these other starting running backs. I think Javonte slides up around the Tyrone Tracy range. I'm not going to say he's a locked and loaded top 24 running back every week going into the future. I don't think Javonte's all of a sudden a superb talent. But I think we can sit here and go, okay, well, we know that he is the locked in starter. Those are the reports coming into the game. So we ranked him ahead of Sanders. We ranked him over Jaden Blue, of course. And now that we've had Javonte finding some success while at the same time, I don't know, you're looking at a running back that has a clear job over the next few weeks until he possibly loses it. Like he is going to be in flex consideration based off matchup. He probably regresses a bit. He's not going to score multiple touchdowns every single week. But I went from thinking Javonte was not startable until we saw otherwise, and we just saw otherwise. So Javonte startable in good matchups, in specific league formats. I think Javonte Williams could be playable. But I'm going to publish these rankings on the site. I was actually planning on answering the questions that we have on flockfantasy.com in a live Q&A after the game tonight as well. But I'm not sure we're going to be doing that now. Because with the weather delay, it just pushed everything back. So obviously this live stream's happening about an hour later than we thought it was going to. Now, again, I do owe everybody an apology. I know with the Underdog Fantasy picks, I really let y'all down with the Flock Pick 'em Pack. If you go Mason, I'm done with you. I'm never going to trust you again. Completely understandable. I clearly let y'all down. We took Pickens to have fewer than 5 receptions. That worked. Barkley to have a touchdown. That worked. But Dak did not hit 230 passing yards. So instead of turning our $25 entry to $120, we lost our $25 now. I'm going to be back at it. All right. You want to tap out? You tap out. You want to say, Mason, I'm fading you. You fade me. But here's what I'm rolling with for the game tomorrow. There's a 50% profit boost token in Underdog right now for that game tomorrow. And we're going to be going with Kelsey for fewer than 50.5 receiving yards. Hampton, higher than 9.85. And Mahomes for fewer than 19.5 fantasy points. It's a 50% profit boost token. So you are capped. I went to my cap. I put $50 to win about $400. If you want to put about $5 to win $40, you do you. If you want to say, Mason, F it, I'm not interested, you do you. I will say, if you were interested in doing those picks on Underdog, now is the best time to do so because of all the promos they are running. 50% profit boost token for the Friday night game. A 100% profit boost token drops on Saturday for you to use for the Sunday games. And on top of that, you are getting additional pick'ems on Sunday and Monday specials. And that's if you use code FLOCK. You are also going to be getting $50 added into your account after you play your first 5. So that link to Underdog Fantasy, if you want to play this with us, is going to be in the description, comment section, live chat. And with that being said as well, again, use code FLOCK. You'll get $50 added in your account, and there'll be no better way to support this live stream. But I think we covered everything. Again, general recap. Barkley stays the same. Hurts stays the same. I'm moving down A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith slightly, but not panicking full-blown yet. Dallas Goedert stays the same. Dak Prescott stays the same. CeeDee Lamb stays the same. George Pickens, if you were irrationally high on him, you may need to move him down. For where I had him as a borderline flex wide receiver 3, stays the same for me there. Javonte Williams is the real guy that I have to update my rankings with, and we moved Javonte up. Javonte went from, in my opinion, unstartable before this game, which my opinion clearly was wrong. Clearly you should have started him. To now somebody you very much can be looking at dependent on what we have with the matchup. Now, I see everybody spamming McCaffrey stuff in the chat. Let me see if we have a McCaffrey update, but I don't think we do. Let me see. I'm assuming y'all are just talking about what we got before the game. Yeah, and I have not seen anything that dropped during the game, which obviously I'm going to be live streaming for what? I live streamed today for across both channels about 7 hours answering fantasy football questions. We are going to be live streaming tomorrow for probably another 5-6 hours answering fantasy football questions. And I will be dropping the rankings videos too. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscribe button, and YouTube will let you know when we go live so you can come hang out with us in these live streams. But I think that's all I got for you. Appreciate you. And I hope I get to see you out with the live stream tomorrow night.